here we are. It's a sunny day in San Francisco.
Gorgeous day.
Yep. It is. It is. Thanks for having me over to this beautiful spot.
Yeah, had to get you off the main floor down there, right?
Outside, I can actually breathe some fresh air, which is really cool. And we'll take a selfie, because if there's no picture, there's no proof.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Can't prove it. So we'll do that for folks. Jim Broome is with me from DirectDefense. Jim, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going to be a good chat. I had a good conversation yesterday, and we talked about IT and OT convergence and maintaining separation of networks and duties and all that fun. Connect them, but don't, right?
Right,
Connect them where you need to, and then have that visibility and control, which you guys do a fantastic job at, because you have the knowledge of those environments.
Yep.
So thrilled to have that chat. So I encourage everybody to listen to that. And today we're gonna take a turn off the highway and go into threat report land, because you guys pull some interesting data together around threats, and I'm interested to hear what's going on there. But before we do that, a few words from Mr. Jim Broome, who you are, what you're up to at DirectDefense.
Sure. Well, for those that don't know me, I'll hope some new folks, but going into my 30th year in the industry at this point, so the gray hair is real. It's not a dye job or anything like that. I'm essentially the president and CTO of DirectDefense. We specialize in security services, so penetration testing, managed services, and then the OT practice with Chris that you got to talk to the other day. So.
I love Chris. And I don't think Chris and I got the history. I don't think we talked about that. So give me the background on DirectDefense. When you were founded, what was the original objective, and how do we look?
Really, myself and Bo Shariari, who's my business partner, we came from a place called Accuvant, now known as Optiv in the industry. And essentially, we started our primary services day one, which is our testing services, and still a considerable bit of our business today. So we really picked up with a lot of our core customers that we had essentially built the programs for them to do testing at scale and programmatically test their products as they're going to market. And we really do have a strong base in manufacturing today across the board, which is why OT is so critical for us as well. Along the way, our managed services became a thing because of organic demand. So teasingly, when I talk to customers, like second year we were in business, ransomware became a thing. Not everybody followed our carefully crafted deliverable from the penetration test, and our first managed service was actually managed incident response, helping get the bad guy out, or post-events when all the lawyers and everybody are gone, making sure they don't have a repeat of the same thing. So we now call that purple teaming, where the red and blue team are working together to make sure they got visibility. And so we would go in there and set up testing scenarios so they could see it. And ultimately our customers flat out asked us, hey, you guys do a really good job of finding solutions that work. Just add the service to it.
Perfect.
And so that's how we got started.
Perfect. So not all of that, a lot of that data, I presume, become lessons learned, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Here are the threats we're seeing, that's data. Here are the attacks that we've seen happen because we didn't block the threats properly. Here is threat activity broadly outside of the organization. Is that the driver behind the threat report?
Yes, very much so. I mean, directly what we saw, what made the news last year, like Scattered Spider, the threat actor group that was part of Black Hat affiliate. They made a lot of news with the hacking of MGM, and we know we went toe-to-toe with them on 8 different occasions. And we're really able to kind of take the themes and lessons learned from those attacks and turn that into value to our services across the board. The threat report that we kind of highlight, and also our message to customers, is making sure that they ask for their partners to really be a partner, their service providers. And so one of the things, the themes that we come out of the data set was, number one, how is that message resonating with our customers? Case in point is, we take the same core alerts with every customer, but we let them tell us which one are more important, which one is a higher priority. Or better yet, what's your work case on how you want this to be remediated for you? We found we actually have about an 8% variance from client A to client B across the board. So from a service delivery standpoint, the challenge is definitely on us to be as consistent as possible. But with that being said, it allows us to actually do a lot of customization for customers. And we've actually, by all means, go look at the report, but we found that message is definitely resonating. We have a core set of, if you will, cyber alerts, cybersecurity related alerts, but we found that about 30% of the overall volume going back out to clients is things they specifically asked for. that's programmatic. It's not just a cyber thing. It's a productivity thing. It's a change management thing that all feed into making sure a customer gets what they need. And that directly translated into the threats that we also saw with threat actors like Scattered Spider. We had the benefit of a very customer with a very mature MFA program. That one of the things we did for them a couple years ago was we created a standard set of rules and alerts, because they had already programmatically established that they're going to roll out new MFA. It's going to default to the push notification, the pop-up on your phone, the PIN code, and culturally they had eradicated the use of text messaging, which is really what we saw being abused by the threat actor last year. If you still have text messaging turned on in your program, that's one of the threat vectors they're using, called SIM swapping. They were literally profiling your employees, picking the worst time. In most cases, we saw a huge spike in summer where they were actually profiling individual employees in their social media or family social media to target them specifically. And in some cases, they were successful. But because we had these custom alerts in place, we saw in the first 15 minutes that Bob or Sally, the admin, just added a new phone to their device and just to their MFA settings, and we're able to turn those into alerts, if not proactively get in front of it.
Yeah, I've actually heard, I think it was from Chris actually, that same scenario where I'm thinking about it now, what is the advanced persistent swappers. Repeat SIM swaps, trying again and again and again. If that one's not working, let me try another swap.
Yeah, I mean, they literally went through 4 different customers, or 4 different employees in one environment. They were successful in 3 of those cases, which kind of speaks to the cellular industry really needs to step their game up for protecting your phone, because that's tied to your bank account and other things, not just your login password.
Right, yeah. A lot of stuff connected there. So tell me a bit about the structure of the report. How is it organized? How do you break down the information and present it in a way that...
Really, we took the themes, like I said, that we were seeing, and more importantly, the threat vectors that we saw after a successful breach. Like first step in, they got someone's credentials. What do they do next? And so we really took the theme of where we went and added a lot of custom alerts across the board for clients, but secondarily is like what are we seeing across that landscape. So thematically, just staying on Scattered Spider for a second, they're not the only one doing this. Most of them are doing it now, but they were the first ones to come in teams. So one group was actually designed to actually break into an account. The next one was to get global admin. That global admin account would then jump over to your Azure environment, and they would set up a federated domain, which gave them access to all your MFA tokens to replay at will. And they would log back in as your own individual. Then another group would actually go after on-prem infrastructure. Yeah, that's one. Well, actually, technically, that's 2 teams. The first guys that got in.
All right,
the second one that got persistence inside the cloud environment. The third team would actually pivot over to your on-premise, like your VMware infrastructure or what have you.
Okay.
And then the final team was actually going through all the Azure single sign-on enabled apps and going to each one of those, figuring out what admin user was there and actually logging in from there. So they were getting into ERP solutions, your own security solutions. So seeing them pop up, next to you, if you will,
right.
In the front line, and having to repel them out of the security solutions that we're managing and seeing the other activity coming from.
They're watching themselves.
Yep. Very much. They were updating. They also, if you use like a global VPN, provider or SD-WAN provider, they were hopping in there, downloading the agents and joining those, come in through the side door, if you will. So again, it began, really specialized on where can we see integration points, how can we see the initial signs of compromise in there, and more importantly, where can we actually start getting visibility of where they're at in the enterprise to try to slow them down, if not get them out.
So that seems really difficult, because a lot of that presents itself as legitimate in many ways.
It can be tracked back. So, I mean, the main thing is really making sure you've got really good visibility.
It's not just an alert, right? So
no, it's a series of alerts coming through that, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I presume that's where you guys come in and really help.
Yeah, in essence, it's,
put those pieces together.
For us, it's really sitting down and actually creating the alerts, actioning them, and then actually building response capabilities. Like one of the lessons learned, directly was, if you're in some fintech companies, financial, organizations, they have rules and regulations which a third party like us cannot have permissions to reset global admins, and yet the threat actor's walking in with a global admin account. So one of the things we had to come up with is, a set of compensating controls with the customer, like, hey, I'm going to work to do my best to get your attention, but you need to leave me an option to be able to help you out here and kill accounts. So sometimes we work on automation to do account lockout of higher privilege. Sometimes we just basically have a rule of engagement that if they don't respond fast enough, we can override them. So again, it's, if you will, ask for forgiveness after the fact. But at least I kept them from getting any further inside the environment. And so that's really where we truly embrace the concept of partnership. Like, hey, I'm going to do my best to keep them out of here for you and keep your business going, but you got to work with me. Sometimes regulations kind of need to be, documented, but we still need to have a path forward to help you, especially if your team is struggling to respond.
There's always an exception in an edge case.
Yep.
You have to account for. What is there anything? So this is the second year. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in the report that pops out as we didn't expect to see that, or we didn't expect to see that thing at this rate, or we're looking for something and that never surfaced? I don't know, any highlights?
The bigger themes that we were able to get from year 1 to year 2 is, again, our message of cooperation and customization definitely rang through.
Right.
And it shows in our stats, but secondarily to that was really the change in threat actor behavior of, because they're leveraging AI to create their phishing campaigns. We saw the success rate of successful click-through or employees giving up username, password, and PIN code to the threat actor. We have across the board a rise of around 25 to 35%. And that was just over the course of 1 quarter, coming into summer last year, coming into the fall. And so, that was direct, we could directly go back to look at the original email that came in. Is like, yep, they got all the buzzwords right. They profiled the company. There's no grammatical errors. There's localization in some cases because they were actually attacking employees in foreign countries from the United States. And so they had, proper phraseology, everything you needed to come across as authentic. And all courtesy of ChatGPT.
Very much, yeah. Interesting. So this data is generated by customers, so presumably you're seeing a lot of the same things when you're interacting with them as well. In the field, feet on the street, supports pretty much everything you're seeing in the report. Do the conversations mimic the summaries?
Yes. What's been really interesting is, in the ever-evolving role and responsibility of the CISO, with your conversation with Chris, especially in manufacturing cases, the CISOs are now directly being asked to be part of or protect the operation of the line because that's the money to the company. And that's, those roles and responsibilities have actually been handed down to the CISO. And so that data, those messages around, what are our use cases, such as we're literally for folks on the picture they'll see, we're actually over here at the Clarity booth, so to give them a shout out, we're leveraging their technology for OT visibility. Cyber, however, is not our number one request. It's actually change management.
Okay.
So one of the stories that their product actually does is it sees cyber issues, especially from network visibility. It sees change management issues like firmware changing on assets that could cause an impact to a line. It actually sees vulnerabilities, and it can feed a vulnerability management story as well, all of which we have rolled into it. But thematically, the conversation with the C-suite CISOs is, your number one request to me to tell you things that actually may cause productivity issues. So change management's number one. It's not actually a cyber request. And even those themes from the report, as an example, sitting down and number one, you guys are still using text messaging. By all means, stop. It's outside of your control. If you can't do that because it's such a cultural shift in the organization for timeliness, let's at least go back to all your admins and tell them no. Let's put some rules of engagement around your most privileged users. They have to use PIN, notification or PIN code, or maybe a FIDO2 key with, YubiKey or whatever. Let's put some other solutions in place to just take the most privileged, accounts down and monitor them better and more effectively. And so those are the themes that come from that data. Go back to real, feet on the ground and conversations with executives on how to change their culture and program.
Interesting, because you said, I want to pull on this string a little bit. I continue to hear the theme of resilience. And certainly when you get into manufacturing and critical infrastructure, uptime, followed, if not equal to safety.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Especially on the other side of the fence of traditional SCADA. Yeah.
But you can't achieve those if there are weaknesses in the system.
Right.
So security has to be this. I'm curious, do organizations not say security but expect it, or not say it and and pray? Or what's the...
I mean, we do still practice a lot of faith-based cybersecurity here in the United States.
I'm just wondering if that's
Lord, please
shifting.
let them hack somebody else. But really, the bigger change or shift around OT and around uptime monitoring, availability is the number one concern because that's bottom dollar for everybody in that scenario. But what it really translates into is we're using cybersecurity products to go back to core IT disciplines, which is just did you have a proper change management window? Was this patch tested before we rolled it out? Because we've seen, using one example, if that line goes down for more than 15 minutes, the CEO gets a phone call to let them know they're not making their number that quarter. So that it's a direct impact. So those stories kind of matriculate back to just core IT more than IS.
Right.
Because I'm old enough at this point I still make the delineation between the two.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, thematically that's kind of where we're seeing a lot of that today. Is really finding or using cybersecurity solutions to actually give an IT conversation.
So earlier you mentioned, I presume you provide guidance, but it sounds like you also seek direct feedback because each business is unique, where they are, what they operate in, how their culture, all that stuff plays a role. Same question for two different audiences. For existing customers, how can the findings in the report, the data from the report, help them have a better engagement with you, to have that collaboration of, here's what we're seeing in the report, that might impact your business, help us understand where we can kind of come in and then further help?
Sure. So for the customer engagement today, we, seasonally our biggest feedback is we force them to talk to us. And so we do believe in collaboration. We do have constant stand-up meetings. And so we have at the very least a quarterly strategic meeting to go over these findings as they're fresh into our ecosystem. So the fact they were distilled into a report, right? No, we're constantly trying to hold their hand and get them through the process because, case in point, things change every week. If an organization is still using, for example, Oracle, platforms, Oracle is notoriously tough to work with. They don't have the best, patching schedule like the other vendors are monthly. Theirs is quarterly, so you get hit with 500 patches at once, and you got to figure out which patch goes into this application stack. So, singling out
knock everything off.
Right. Well, I mean, singling out PeopleSoft is a great example. It's a legacy technology they have. It's in just about every major corporation today. However, it's 18 patches individually to secure the web server, and exactly, it has to be in the right order. And so, if you mess up, you're still vulnerable. And so, we do see, for example, what we call priority 2 events, which is web shells dropping on web servers from time to time. That's your first incursion. So you hope your EDR stops it. If it doesn't, then we've got secondary, visibility stories specifically for, discovery and when they start trying to break off that machine and jump into other things. That's threat hunting at scale. That's essentially what we're doing is looking for the gaps out there. And so we take again all this data, all this day to day, and bring that back to our customers. Like, hey, you're running this. Strongly recommend you deploy it this way, and just give that guidance.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It is huge. So for the other audience, those who have not had the pleasure working with you and Chris and the team,
happy to talk to everybody, give you a demo.
That's right.
But
what should they be looking for in the report to kind of set the stage?
Sure.
For
most of our stuff is we try to present this in a very tactile and common sense manner. Number one, stop using tech nuts. I mean, your bank's unfortunately are federally insured, so they're still doing it, but we're actually starting to see banks get away from using texting as an option now and going to more common things like Google Authenticator or whatever. Number two is really going to be aware of your single sign-on, how it's integrated into the various bits of your cloud infrastructure out there, and have visibility stories. Case in point is one of the solutions we monitor is Salesforce. We also monitor ServiceNow, which is a key repository of data for a lot of companies, and just seeing what's logging in there, we can spot not only threat actor behavior, but we can also spot developers not acting well, using third-party apps to back up things they probably weren't authorized to back up. So you can see a lot of that visibility and turn that into those type of visibility stories for the organization. And number three, really today is. If you're definitely going to not invest in EDR, then go take a look at our buddies over at Halcyon. They're definitely solving the ransomware problem. So if you're not ready or you can't afford to invest in enterprise EDR solutions, then second option is available for you now, which just looks at solving the ransomware problem.
Got it. All right. So read the report, connect with Jim, look at the partners. It's all about initial assessments, gaining visibility through monitoring, and having the wherewithal from your team to close the gaps.
And just truly, when we talk to clients, if you're out there evaluating MDR and MSSPs right now, make sure you reserve your right for your service you're looking for. So my 3 simple questions I tell everybody to always ask the room is, will your MSSP support a custom alert? Will they triage that custom alert with a custom playbook? And will they do a custom response based off of the custom alert? Today's market space, if you put 10 of us in the room, only 3 of us will be left standing on average.
You mentioned playbook, that's a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah, that's how much time we got?
Well, Jim, I'm going to leave time for folks to connect with you, and I hope they do have a good chat with you. And Chris, I've really enjoyed my conversations with both of you. Very enlightening, and you guys are working on some good things and covering areas that not everybody can cover.
And we got you outside in sun.
And you got me outside. I'm going to get a nice tan today. Well, Jim, thanks so much for that, and everybody do grab the report, connect with Jim and the DirectDefense team, and please do continue to follow me here at RSA Conference. Lots more coming your way, and we'll see you all soon.
Yep, have a great show.